My father disowned me because I refused to leave my 7-year-old daughter in the ICU to finish planning my sister's engagement party. At the time, my phone was vibrating beside Sophie's bed with a question about where the florist should unload. Sophie had been admitted less than a day earlier after a sudden respiratory complication. She was sedated, surrounded by monitors, and receiving breathing support while the doctors tried to stabilize her. I had already told my sister, Leah, that I was stepping away from the party. She replied that she understood, then immediately asked whether I could still answer. Just a few questions. I worked as a freelance event coordinator, and 6 weeks earlier I had agreed to help with Leah's engagement party for free. She had promised it would be simple. My father, Daniel, was paying for the venue and vendors, and I was only supposed to keep the schedule organized. Instead, I had slowly become the person handling everything. Vendors called me, the hotel called me, Leah sent me every decision she did not want to make. I kept doing it because that was my place in the family. Leah got overwhelmed. My father got impatient. I fixed things. That pattern still seemed to apply even with Sophie in intensive care. The florist's question was followed by another message from Leah. She said the hotel needed a final delivery time and she did not know what I had arranged. I told her I had the information in my working planning file and would send a full handoff as soon as I could. A few minutes later, my father called. I stepped into the hallway so I would not disturb anyone. He did not ask how Sophie was doing. Leah says you've stopped answering, he said. I'm at the hospital. Sophie's in the ICU. I know where you are. I'm asking what the plan is for tomorrow. I told him again that I could not coordinate the party. I would send the vendor contacts, delivery schedule, and everything still waiting for a decision. After that, he and Leah would need to take over. He sighed as if I were being difficult. There are doctors with Sophie. You're not the one treating her. No, but I'm her mother. You're sitting in a hospital while your sister has no idea what's happening with her own event. You committed to this. I committed before my daughter ended up in intensive care. He told me I only needed to leave for a few hours. I could go to the hotel, get everyone started, and return before the party. Sophie would still have nurses around her. Through the glass behind me, I could see her small hand resting on the blanket. Earlier, while she was barely conscious, her fingers had closed around one of mine. It was the only response I had gotten from her all morning. I'm not leaving, I said. My father went quiet, then his voice changed. If you choose to stay there instead of showing up for this family, then you're no longer my daughter. For a moment, I did not know what to say. I had spent years avoiding that tone, the one that meant the conversation was over unless I surrendered. Usually, I found some compromise. Usually, I handled the problem and dealt with my feelings later. There was no compromise that did not involve walking away from Sophie. I heard you, I said. I'm still staying. I ended the call and went back inside. The next morning, while Sophie slept, I finished the handoff. I included every vendor number, the setup timeline, the hotel contact, the delivery windows, and a short list of decisions Leah still needed to make. I shared it with Leah and my father, then sent a message saying I was no longer the event coordinator and would not be answering planning questions. I did not cancel anything. The contracts belonged to Leah and my father had paid the deposits. They had all the access they needed. What they no longer had was me doing the work. Leah sent several messages. At first, she asked me to reconsider. Then she said I was abandoning her at the worst possible time. I did not argue. I had already given them everything required to continue. The party went forward the next day. I knew that only because Leah messaged me afterward. My father had hired an on-site coordinator at the last minute, which cost more than he expected. They simplified part of the setup, and Leah had to make several decisions herself while getting ready. Her message ended with, I hope staying at the hospital was worth putting us through all that. I looked over at Sophie. Her breathing had improved enough that the doctors were beginning to reduce her support. I did not reply. 2 days later, Sophie was awake for longer stretches. She was weak and confused, but she recognized me. My father sent a short message through Leah saying everyone had been under pressure and that it was time to put the situation behind us. There was no acknowledgement that he had disowned me. No apology for asking me to leave Sophie. They wanted the old arrangement back. I would absorb what had happened, smooth things over, and be available the next time they needed something. I told Leah I was relieved her party had happened, but I was not apologizing and I was not going back to being the person who fixed everything while everyone else decided what I was allowed to need. That evening, Sophie shifted against her pillow and looked at me. Were you here the whole time? She asked. Yes, I said, taking her hand. I never left. Her fingers closed around mine again, this time on purpose.